and then I'm going to start my content. So what are the 5 things I learned at the Mike Koenigs event, Webcast Profit Toolkit? Let me say that again. What are the 5 things I learned at the Mike Koenigs event, which was called Webcast Profit Toolkit, that went on last weekend? This was a 3-day event that I attended in San Diego with several other people, and I see a couple of them are on here, so I'm going to open it up and we're going to chat about it after I share my 5 things. We'll see what else their 5 things are. So the first thing that I had in my notes was actually some information I wrote down from Ed Rush, who was one of the speakers there, and he talked about that we had 3 objectives in our business. And the 3 objectives are income, impact, and lifestyle. And he talked about how anything you're doing should be increasing one of those things. And in order to increase those things, you would have to increase your capability or your skills, your marketing activity, or the time you spent in those areas. So it made me really think about everything that I choose to do. Like, for example, recording this, I'm trying to be very efficient with my content. So I thought by doing a lab session, I would be able to record a podcast. I would get the video and the audio out that I could then use for my podcast, as well as I could connect with some of the people that were at the event to get some of their ideas for what they learned as well. So that's the first thing I learned. The second thing I learned, and I really enjoyed, is Mike Koenigs and his wife Vivian did a session on effective video. So what are the 5 key components to a good video? And Vivian, for those of you that don't know her, she runs a charity called Just Like My Child, where she provides a lot of services to women and girls in Uganda. And so she's been doing a lot of videos to help market her business. And so the first component she talked about is really telling a story with your videos. And I love stories, and I think stories are the best way to share content and connect with people and things like that. So I love that. The second thing she said is to use statistics only if they're educational. So don't just be throwing a bunch of statistics in, but use statistics that really support what you're trying to convey. The third thing she shared was to keep it real, don't overproduce. I think we're all guilty about editing. And she said, really just keep it real, that people will relate to you more that way. It's okay to clean it up a little bit, but don't just, make it like a motion picture kind of thing. And then the fourth thing was to keep the videos 3 minutes or shorter. Now, keep in mind what she was doing was creating videos to help promote her charity and the things that she was doing with Just Like My Child. So I thought that was really cool as well. And then the last thing she said, and this is something I've learned and I'm trying to implement more and more, and that's be specific, measurable, have a specific, measurable call to action. And so we need to do that on everything we're doing. So whether it's a blab, a podcast, a webinar, whatever you're doing, always have call to actions in there. And that doesn't mean you're selling something. It means that you're asking people to, either join your list or join your podcast or join whatever. So I think that's just a really good key list of 5 things for videos. So the third thing I learned was, and I wrote these down along the way, there were little snippets that were dropped throughout, and there were verbiage that you can add into any presentation you can do. And so here's the ones that I wrote down I thought were important. The first one is start off a sentence with what if. That helps people become more engaged with you. And that's what all of these are about. So the first one was what if. The second one was imagine, or imagine with me, or can you imagine. The third one was what you will learn. The next one I had is I promise to show you all of this, but first, and this is the whole idea of open loops. Both of these are opening up loops of what people are going to get, and that helps keep people engaged and stay on. So I love those. And another one is so you can, and I need to add that into more of what I do. Blah 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 blah. So you can, and then finally I have now you will finally. And that was the little snippet keywords that I want to add into things I say as I'm doing webinars and blabs and all those kind of things. The fourth one I have on my list are the 5 golden rules of content. And this was stuff that Pam Hendrickson shared in her presentation. She had a longer presentation, but I thought these 5 were really useful. The first is be very clear with your content. The second is to provide context. So sometimes I do a lot of presentations, also attend a lot of presentations, and sometimes people say something, but if you don't have the context around it, it's really hard to understand. So be sure to provide context within your content. The third one is to invoke certainty. So if people are a little unsure, be sure to provide them certainty in what you're sharing with them. The fourth rule is be compelling. Be sure you share information that's compelling, keep people interested and engaged, and finally, inspire confidence. Either inspiring confidence in yourself with what you're sharing, or having them inspiring confidence in themselves. And then the fifth one I want to share with you is what Mike Flashame, and for those of you who don't know who he is, he's actually created Webinar Gem Studio, which is one of the webinar platforms that I use. And he had 5 laws that he presented on. And the first one was the law of maximum registration for webinars. And I'll just share a couple of things he said. He had a whole bunch of stuff. He spoke for about 90 minutes. But a couple of things he shared is solve one big problem with one big bold promise. That's how you start your registration page, and that's how you get more people to register. And then he also said to have a topic-specific bio. I don't know about you. I'm probably as guilty as anybody. I have one bio, and that's what I throw at everything. So have a topic-specific bio, and that'll help increase your registration page. The second law he had was the law of maximum show rate. And that was getting people to show up for the webinar. And so he suggested that you have a short promotion, no more than 3 days. So I think that just depends on what kind of webinar and your audience. But in general, I think that's a good rule. If you're doing something, you can let people know 2 or 3 days out for them to show up. And then the next one is to offer an ethical bribe to show up. So I know several of them I've been on lately, they've been giving away Apple Watches. And one of the ways they've gotten people to show up for that kind of giveaway is they send an email out right before with a hint in there saying, here, in this email is going to be the answer to the question we're going to ask we're going to give away the Apple Watch. So I thought those were 2 really good things to help you get show up rates for your webinar. The third one he had was the law of maximum stick rate, and that means people staying on. So they showed up. Now, how do you get them to stay on? Well, one, of course, is giving away something like that Apple Watch. Another way is engagement. Another one is to ask permission before you pitch. So I've seen several people talk about this and do this, and they'll say right off the top, I'm going to share a lot of content with you, and then I'm going to share with you my opportunity or my product or whatever I'm selling. And he even went as far to say, I'm going to give you the ability to say yes or no, whether I can pitch it. So he said to earn the right to be able to pitch your product by providing valuable content. And then he said also for that one to recap the value at the end. So say something like, let's recap what we've learned today. His fourth one was the law of maximum high converting offers. And the biggest thing I got out of that, he said to create bonuses that will overcome your objections. So as you're selling a product or selling a service, you're going to have certain objections. And if you can create a bonus that will address that objection, then that kind of takes that away from people buying your product or service. And then the final one he had was the law of echo. And this is where he was actually doing his pitch. He had a product that basically was a map of how they've done several big launches, and it included, an outline, and it included the swipe files and the emails and all that kind of things. So those were the 5 laws that Mike Flashame shared with us. So those are the five areas that I learned. The first was the 3 objectives for our business, and that was by Ed Rush. The second was the 5 key components to a good video, and that was shared by Vivian and Mike Koenigs. The third one I shared was different keywords and phrases that I wrote down that I want to use as I do webinars and do different presentations. The fourth one were the 5 golden rules of content that Pam Hendrickson shared. And then the fifth one was from Mike Flashame's, and it was his 5 laws to get more people on your webinar and things like that. So that's what I wanted to share today. I see I have several people on. If anybody wants to join and ask questions or share anything they learned, just go ahead and request it, and I'll let you on. I have one person in here named Mark. I'm going to go ahead and let you on if you have something you want to share. Hi, Mark. Can't hear you. Can you? You got something you want to share?
Hello. Is this working, or can you hear me?
That's better. Now I can hear you.
Sorry, I had a nice little road clip on, but I forgot I had it on and stood up and totally stripped it bare.
Okay.
Not good. Anyway, Yeah.
Sorry, do you have any questions or anything you want to share?
Say what?
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and there you go. Have some other people on. Andy, I see you're on. Do you have anything you want to share? And thank you for the comment. I know you missed Mike and Pam's at the end. So I really enjoyed Pam. She shared quite a bit of good information on content and how to create content. Anybody else want to come on and ask a question or share any kind of information you have here? Don't see anyone. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the event. This was an event in San Diego where it was 3 days, and we had lots of different speakers that come on and talk. One of the fun things they had is they had Tommy Igoe, who's a world famous drummer, and he was fabulous. He played all kinds of really cool things for us, and we did kind of name that tune at the breaks, which was fun. I'm not very good at naming that tune, but I did enjoy his music. So that was a fun side note. We had a bunch of dinners. So I have a mastermind, and several of the mastermind people were there, and we went to dinner one night, and that was great as well. I really enjoyed that. Let's see. Lots of good things like that. But I see some other people on. I don't know if anybody wants to come on. If you do, just request it, and I will let you on, and you can ask questions or share any information that you may have about the event. There comes Joe. Let's see if I can get him on. Here he comes.
I just thought I'd let you sweat it out a little bit.
I was doing pretty good, wasn't I? Well, I was really sweating it because my neighbors are having a birthday party for one of their kids. It started right before I got on. I'm like, oh no, all these kids screaming and yelling. It's happy sounds, but it's not what you want to hear. So I closed up all the windows, and hopefully we won't hear that.
I'll let you sweat it out and see if anybody else wants to jump in. You know, I always have something to say.
I figured somebody on here would. Andy's still under the weather, so I can understand that. I wouldn't want to put anybody at any, out of their comfort zone. So how's it going? Are you in Vegas?
Yes, I am.
Nice. We'll see you there in a couple weeks.
Oh, dinner on me.
Yay.
I did see Robin and Tony at PubCon in Las Vegas. It was at the convention center, and it was in one of the massive halls, South Hall. And I thought, wow, it's going to be really jammed with people. And I get in there, and I go upstairs to the South Hall, and I walk in the front door, and there's maybe a third of the hall being used.
Wow.
That's
a huge. You said it's at the convention center, and that's a huge convention center.
Oh yeah, and this was just one of the halls, and it was like maybe. If there was 100 exhibitors, it was a lot.
Wow.
And everybody that did SEO and TP&I, that type of thing on the internet. But what I thought was strange is I asked him, I says, is this the first year they're doing this? He goes, no, this is the first year we're here.
Oh, okay.
They've been doing it for 15 years. And I go, 15 years and it hasn't grown this much? I was surprised. But they said to say hello. But that's off topic.
That's okay. No, I had seen pictures on Facebook of them, so I knew they were at that event. I didn't really know much about the event, so that was good to hear that they were there.
Yeah, and I also attended and was interviewed at Amazon AWS conference. And that was 85,000 people, and that's everything for all their S3 and web services.
Right.
And everybody was just talking about the cloud again, and that's what I got interviewed on, and what changes they expect. And they're saying now that you can have half cloud, and they're not using the word hybrid anymore. Hybrid is half and half, but now they're saying you can have cloud on your internal systems and then the regular cloud. They're not calling it hybrid.
Wow.
So it was very interesting conversations that we had. And that, again, was packed. I couldn't believe the amount of people that were there. A little bit different from like an IBM and Oracle, those type of conventions, which we go to, where these guys were the flip-flops, the shorts, and whatever T-shirt fell on the floor.
I've been to a few like that, but most of them haven't been quite that much because, you know, I work for a software company, so I do that.
Exactly. Like when I work for IBM and everything, you show up and everybody's got dress shirts on or polo shirts, that type of thing.
Khaki pants, polo shirts, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
So I did want to let
know a
everybody
little bit more about Mike's event and everything. I wasn't there personally. I've gone through day one and a little bit of day two. It seemed like a large majority of it was panels.
It was. I was on a panel the first day, which was great. I thought they did a really good job with the panels this year because they stayed on topic. You know, sometimes they don't.
Yes.
And I enjoyed that. So I was on a panel the first day, and Andy was on there with me. And you know, I thought they did a really good job. I thought they had good people, and not talking about Andy and I, but everybody else, you know, Andy's probably going to say something mean to me now, but, you know, I thought they were really beneficial and useful. You know, sometimes the panels get so far out that I don't really enjoy them that much, but I really thought they were good this time.
When I thought so far, remember I haven't done day three, I've done half a day and a half, was the one where instead of getting up there and, you know, tell me what you do to show us your website, that type of environment, it was one panel where they had 4 or 5 guys up there, Paul Culligan, I can't remember who else, and they asked them, what mail service are you using? What web service are you? And that to me was tremendous to try to see what consensus that people had on. I thought it was very interesting to see the tools that people use.
Yeah, I do want to mention here, since several people have gotten on, I messed up the Blab. I scheduled it, and some of you subscribed to it. What happened was when I got on it, my camera wouldn't work. And I think it's because I had Skype up, because when I turned Skype off, but then it wouldn't let me back on Blab. So just a note to anybody that's using Blab, make sure you turn Skype off first. That seemed to be the problem. So anyway, I know Nikki and a couple of other people that were trying to get on. That was what the issue was. It was user error on my part. But back to the event. Yeah, I thought they did a really good job with that. They did they did a few hot seats every day. That's what I should say. So there was probably 3 or 4 every day. And those I always enjoy as well. Mike did have a guy on, and I was going to talk about this in the first part of the content, but I decided not to. He had a guy on, I think the company's name was New Tech, and they were selling like webcasting studios. And they started about $8,000 and went up to about $40,000. So
yeah, I saw that.
yeah, so if you're going to do, you know, to me, if you're going to do like a TV show, then you're going to get to that level maybe someday. I'm not at that level, and what I do, I do webinars, and I do what I consider webcasting sometimes, but I don't have a $40,000 studio. Let me put it that way. It was nice. They had a green screen, and they had a software where you could change cameras and change the background with this green screen and all that kind of stuff. So it was really nice. And if that's, you know, what you want to do, or if you're going to do that for your clients, then it was interesting. I will say that it was interesting. It's just not where I'm at this point.
The last 3 conventions that I went to that I was interviewed on, they all had the TriCaster Mini, because I went over to see what they were using, the portable ones that come in the cases.
Yeah.
They all had what microphones they were using and everything, and it's kind of interesting. It's almost the same thing that we're all using now. Oh, one of them, the one that I just did for Amazon, they shot the front camera that they shot the most out of was an iPhone.
Wow.
I couldn't believe it. And they charged megabucks. Now they had 3 or 4 cameras, but.
Wow, interesting. Yeah, I think that was the interesting thing, like you said, is to hear what equipment people are using. And I think in general, most people have, you know, a Yeti or a Nessie or that ATR, whatever. I have one, I haven't used it yet, microphone, you know, and some kind of Logitech camera. Some people have something a little, you know, step up from that, but, you know, I can't complain with my Yeti and my Logitech camera. I've gotten really good video. I get really good sound on everything I've done. So.
Exactly. I mean, that's really all you need.
Yeah. I mean, I had a Nessie. I gave my husband my Yeti when I got the Nessie, and I traded back because the Nessie in my office just didn't work. I got a lot of feedback on it, and I don't know why. I tried all different things, but somehow with my setup, it just didn't work very well. So I got rid of it, and I traded it with my husband, and he's having no problems in his office. So different setup, and
Go figure.
yeah, you just have to figure out what you're using and things like that as well.
Anybody else want to? Come on, Nikki, jump on. We missed you the last time.
I know, Nikki. Let's see if she wants to come on. If she'll tap, I'll let her on. Oh, there she comes. Let's see if she can get on this time.
Because I believe I saw her there a little bit.
She was there most of the time. I think she had some meetings later and left a couple afternoons early. I'm not sure it's going to let her on. It's fine, Nikki. We might can hear you. I'm not sure. No, I don't think we can hear you. Oh, wait. Maybe it's coming. I think we got the dark screen. This is what I had earlier when I got on the original one. It would not, my camera just wouldn't work. It didn't even turn on.
Huh.
And it looks like what's happening with her. Oh, wait, there she is.
I
don't have any lights on.
Like a house in the dark.
This is horrible quality, so I'm putting my tape back on. I don't have any artificial light here.
I bought those lights that Everett suggested. They were like $30 on Amazon. They're like LED lights, and they have different settings, and I got 2 of them, and they have a clip. So I have one over here that's clipped to a monitor that shows, and then I have one over here that's just sitting on the desk. But they work really well. I think they light the face, and it's dark outside now. I was fine in the summer. I didn't need light because I didn't do anything late enough that it got dark in my office because I have natural light in here. But now that it's getting dark at 6:30, I have to add the light to it.
Yeah, I just object to unnatural light. I like to rise and set with the sun, so I don't even turn lights on at night. It's weird. It's my computer is my only light.
My husband actually has a software on his computer that dims it at night. Some kind of setting study he did. So it's kind of weird. I go in there and it's got like a really dull whatever. I don't know. But something again makes him sleep. I don't have trouble sleeping at night, but on my computer, I leave all my computer, my phones, everything's not in my bedroom. It's all out of there. I just don't bring that stuff in there. So
Joe, you're high-fiving everybody,
right?
Yeah,
I like to hit the button.
So Andy's asking if we're on computer or on the phone. I'm on my computer, Andy. I actually haven't used Blab on my phone. I was going to do it at the event last weekend, and we were doing stuff all the time, so I never did use my phone to do Blab.
Now, Pat Zimmer tried last week from multiple places in his house, and it kept dropping. And I think it was because of his connection that he had rather than just using the iPhone, although he did say that he never had a problem before. But
yeah, I mean, anything can go on. I know I did one of my live Q&As for webinars a couple days ago, and I used my cell phone on my wireless on Periscope. I used Periscope for that because I just wanted to broadcast the same way, and I didn't have any issues, but Meerkat will drop me once in a while if I use Meerkat here at home on the wireless. So different things will do that. So
I guess we want to get back to Mike's thing. I don't know if you want to stay on topic or.
Yeah, Nikki, do you have anything you want to add that things maybe stick out for you that you learned?
I've done about 4 debriefings on the event, so I when I get to that point, I just get to the shortest bullets ever. So I apologize if I don't have a lot of structured feedback, but I liked the event overall. The energy was a little different, but I kind of liked it. It was a different vibe.
Yeah.
And I saw that there were a few more high quality people, and I noticed that Mike and Ed are both upscaling their offerings as well as their images. And so they're selling higher packages. And I'm intrigued by that because, my step was to try to go from solopreneur clients to corporate clients and get back into the, multiple $1 million budgets that are annualized.
They're finally moving up.
And so that's it. Yeah. So that's intriguing to me. I really liked JJ Virgin's behind the scenes discussion of how she made her success. And it wasn't just her story, but she was actually talking about, here are some techniques that we're using. Our webcasts aren't meant to just sell, or webcasts are mostly meant to sell products as opposed to, programs and all that kind of stuff. So I have notes on that. I can make better clarity for the audience, I guess, if I go back and look at those. Anyway, she was smart. She's doing a lot of smart things, and I was impressed by that.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I got from her that I'd like for a lot of people to hear is she said she didn't sell her books to make money. She sold her book. She had books so she could sell her other products, and I thought that was a good point to make. So,
thank you for clarifying.
Exactly.
And then I guess, I liked, the panels and the hot seats. There were probably a larger percentage of those this time and fewer feature keynotes. And then the keynotes were making offers that were, in some cases, more reasonable. Pam was the real surprise. She came out with a $500 offer, and she was going for quantity. I talked to Chris, and he says he wanted her to charge $1,200, and she was insisting, I'm going for the numbers. I'm not going for, the high dollar ticket. She wanted to test that market, and she did very well.
Yeah.
But Publish and Profit was interesting. I don't know if you've covered any of this. I came on late. Publish and Profit was repurchased by Mike, so that's going to be unraveling some new and different stuff, which is cool. And
Top Gun.
They're doing another.
They republished. They repurchased Top Gun Consulting as well.
Yeah. So that's all interesting, and liked that Ed is aspiring to become, I believe I wrote this down right, an 8-figure company. So that's going to be an interesting one to watch.
Yeah, I do think the audience was a higher, at least a lot of the people they did on hot seats seemed to be a higher dollar. They were already at a higher level in their business than a lot that we've seen in the past. That was my impression. So, yeah. I did have somebody ask me to recap what I started with, and I will. I basically talked about different things I learned in different sessions. So one, Ed Rush shared 3 objectives in our businesses, and the 3 objectives were income, impact, and lifestyle. And in order to affect those, we have to increase our capability, our marketing activity, or our time. And then the second thing I shared was the 5 key components of a good video. And Vivian and Mike Koenigs shared that. Vivian has a charity called Just Like My Child, where she supports young women in Uganda. And so as part of that marketing, her husband, Mike Koenigs, encouraged her to do videos. So she's been doing this. I think she's been doing the charity for 5 years. You guys might know that. That's what I recollect from that. And those 5 things was to tell a story, use statistics if they're educational, keep it real, don't overproduce your videos, keep your videos short, 3 minutes or shorter, and always include a specific measurable call to action in your video. So I really enjoyed that because it was very succinct, and she told it in the context of how she's grown the charity and all the people they've helped and all this kind of stuff. So it was very moving as well as very educational. And then the third thing I talked about is keywords. They really talked about different language to use as you're doing webinars or doing different content. And, words like, it basically to bring people in and get them engaged. So words like, what if you could, imagine, or can you imagine, what will you learn? And then they talked about using open loops. So an example of open loops was, I promised to show you all this, but first let's talk about that. And then a couple more I had in there, so you can, and now you will finally, with just some ways to start some sentences to use in your presentation to keep people engaged. Then we talked about Pam already, and Pam had 5 golden rules of content, and those 5 rules were to be clear, provide context, invoke certainty, be compelling, and inspire confidence. And then the final one I shared was the 5 laws that Mike Flashame shared. And Mike is he does a lot of stuff, but most recently did webinar Jam Studio as his product. And so in this case, the 5 laws he was sharing was how to get more people to register, how to get them to show up, how to get them to stick, and high converting offers, how to maximize that. And so I shared some of that kind of stuff. And the 5th one was the law of echo, which was what he was actually pitching, which was his webinar outline thing that he sells, that basically has the whole outline of some of his successful launches, as well as their swipe files and email files and all that kind of stuff. So those were the 5 things I shared, just kind of recapping without going into quite as much detail. But I tried to pick things from different speakers. There were other speakers too. Like I said, Tommy Igor spoke as well as he played the drums for us. He's a famous drummer. And it was kind of fun. We played Name That Tune, and I'm not good at that. So, but other people were. But I enjoyed him playing the drums. He was really good. So, and he also taught us how to play drums, which was kind of funny. It was kind of a fun exercise in there as well.
Yeah, I meant to give my drum to you, Andy, for your kids, but you left. It's like, what? I don't want to take this home. I want to give it away.
I gave mine to Andy, anyway. So he had 3. I don't know what the 4th kid did. I guess they. I'm glad I wasn't at his house.
I got one here in San Diego, Andy. Anytime.
So,
can you explain a little bit more about the drummer Tony? It sounds like it wasn't meshed in with everything that the whole program was supposed to be about. It was a little bit more motivational.
It was. He actually made an offer, not during that time, but later on, where he would, Mike Koenigs and JJ Virgin, both have had him create their own custom, intro, outro kind of music. And really? So he eventually made an offer that he would do that for people. And what Mike and JJ had, I loved it. I mean, it really did seem to represent him. So I think he started with 5 people, and I think they upped it to 7. And I think he sold out. It was pretty reasonable. I thought it was a couple $1,000s for the first package, which to me, to have somebody to create something like that, that's your own and it's custom from somebody that's a world famous drummer, I figure that's not too bad of a price. But yeah.
Still a little bit out of my price range for music.
And again, I think they had an upper audience there, more so than normal. People that could. Andy ended up with 10 drums, so don't feel too bad, Nikki. I bet his wife loves them as well for that.
Yeah, I bet he's living in the garage now.
10 drums for 4 little kids. Yeah, that'd be great. But yeah, and one of the things he did was he did a thing where he gave out, there was 4 or 5 different size drums, and then he taught us all like one rhythm, and then we played. So it was really kind of a neat little song, when it was all mixed together. So it was just kind of a neat experience, I think, a little bit different than what they normally do. So
right, something totally different which makes it interesting.
They also had Joseph McClendon. I don't know if you know him. He came in and spoke for maybe about 30 minutes. He's one of Tony Robbins' lead trainers, been there for, 30 years. He's spoke on Tony's stage forever and ever. And so he spoke for maybe 30 minutes, just, motivational. I don't know. I thought he did a good job. A lot of people liked him as well. So, but it was a much smaller crowd. I think maybe 150, 160 the first day. And of course on Sunday you have less because people leave and, can't stay the whole time. So by the end of the day, it was, much smaller than that. But it was a good crowd. You had the opportunity to meet a lot of people and talk to them and that kind of thing. And because I was on a panel and I also did a hot seat, I had a lot of people talk to me, which was cool. It was kind of nice to have that. And probably the highlight for me was I actually had a lady come in that had bought my webinar product. And she was like, oh, because I got your product. And she said, it's one product I'm going to go all the way through. And I was like, wow, that's incredible. So, yeah, so it's always good to have, awesome. Some kind of nice feedback like that as well. So.
Go back question.
Sure.
The guys from New Tech, did a lot of people approach them in regards to that? Because I would think they would want to do a higher consultation for the higher end systems like Mike has.
There were a lot of people at their table out in the hall, and I saw a lot of people with their literature. So I didn't hang out in the hall, so I don't know how much they sold or anything. They also had people there from Bullet Coffee, which seemed to be a big hit with people. They were making coffee and with butter in it and their supplements.
Really?
Yeah, Mike's. Didn't he say, Nikki, that he invested in that company? I believe that's what he said. Yeah, so that was a big thing.
Yeah,
is that the Bullet mixer thing, or is that something different?
No, it's a Bullet Coffee. It's more of it's like a health kind of coffee.
Okay.
healthy coffee. I'm not a coffee drinker, so I'm not the best one, but I talked to them for a few minutes because I was curious. And then they had somebody that did merchant accounts that was there.
Yeah, he was on a panel, wasn't he?
He was, yeah.
But I couldn't remember the name of that company that he works for, that Mike said he used.
I have somewhere I have the literature. I'll look for it.
Yeah.
And then there was a somebody that does like CDs and physical product creation.
Right.
And then there was one more. Nikki, can you remember? I can't remember who the other one was. I could see him, but I can't remember what he was selling. Which sounds bad, I think. But there was 5. Yeah, there was five vendors there. So it was a good crowd. And then Vivian had a booth too. So.
Oh yeah, I mean that's standard.
Yeah. So Pam wasn't there. She was there for the hot seats both days, and then she was there on Sunday. And then Ed was there Friday and Saturday. So.
Right.
And Paul was there as an attendee. He was a VIP, but he was on 2 panels.
I don't know if you heard Nikki, but at the beginning I said the panels that I liked the most of what I've seen of day 1 and 2 were the ones where they went down the line. Example, Paul was on it, where they asked what email service, what do you webcasting, it was just that's good information just to try to get a consensus and see what everybody's toying with, whether there was lead pages or what.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that was. I enjoyed all the panels. I'll say that, and most of the hot seats. Some of the hot seats just weren't, relevant to me. I'll put it that way. But I think they did a much better job this time staying on point with both the panels and the hot seats. They didn't seem to go. Sometimes they'd go really off kilter on some of these things, and that didn't seem to be true for that. They did offer, and I think it's still going on, if anybody wants to go to Make Market Launch in March, I think till tomorrow night, they're offering buy one, get one free, both for general admission and for, what am I trying to say? And for VIP. So I'll see if I can find the link while we're on here, and I'll put it in the chat if anybody's interested.
The other one was I haven't gotten to, Pam must have been on day 3 and Mike must have been on day 3, which I haven't gotten to. But I did wanted to see both their offers to see if I might be able to catch up. I mean, if I can get Webinar Jam for a year plus everything else, I might just do it. Although I did notice that Paul really pointed out that he does everything on YouTube Live because he can brand it or leave it white space rather than with Webinar Jam. It says Google Hangouts or something like that.
Well, the funny thing, when he said that, I'm like, I don't remember my videos having Google on it. And I went and looked them up because I put a lot of my stuff for my course on Vimeo. And it does have a little Google thing at the top, but that tells you how much I paid attention to it.
Right.
I think it just depends on what you're doing, whether it's going to matter or not,
Right.
Or like what I'm doing, I'm teaching people to use webinars, and I talk about Webinar Jam Studio and stuff like that. So, where I have Google on there is where I've done interviews with people using Webinar Jam Studio. So I don't think it matters that Google's on the top. If I was doing something else, then maybe it would. So, because like the actual content of my course doesn't. I recorded it on ScreenFlow on my Mac, so it doesn't have that on there. But some of the interviews and stuff does have it. So.
What was the other thing? Because you have a little bit more inside information into Webinar Jam, they still have not mentioned anything yet about letting you put your own name at the bottom right and also moving to Google Live. They
haven't mentioned going to YouTube Live. You can take Webinar Jam off of it. I think if you just don't have an affiliate, it doesn't. I don't think you can put your own name, but I think you can have Webinar Jam not on there.
Okay.
I think you can do that. I leave it on there because I'm an affiliate, so it doesn't bother me. It's on there kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, depending on what you're doing, you may not want that on there.
Oh,
yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm only done a day and a half, so what can I go back? It did seem like the 2 that I looked at the beginning and end of day 1 and day 2, it almost seemed like it was the same first presentation and last presentation for both days, unless I'm totally wrong.
No, I don't Ed did the last day he did something on copyright at the end of the day.
Okay.
And it was pretty good, but I didn't share anything in my top 5 because some of it was stuff I'd heard before. So for me, if it was new, then it would. If you were new to it, it would have been new information.
Exactly.
At the end of the first day, I think he did saving time, or time management or whatever.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and at the end of the second day, he did some copywriting stuff. And then Mike did, he did one session on, predicting the future. He likes to do that. And he did, one with the guy from New Tech on the technology.
Right.
And it seems like he did the first one he did, and I'm trying to think what it was entitled, and I can't tell you. So, but yeah, he did that was it.
He did
talking about books and writing books and stuff like that. So,
overall, would you say what might be the percentage-wise of new things that were presented to you and Nikki and would have been to myself over things we have heard in previous get-togethers?
Yeah, Pam's stuff was all new to me. Anyway, I didn't go to Make Market Launch, so I don't know if she'd done some of this there. But that presentation was totally new. Ed did a presentation on Friday that I hadn't seen before either. Of course he speaks, so there's always a little bit of repetition in there.
Right.
The copyright one, partly with Ed, we were in his mastermind. We've done Top Gun. We've done several things. So a lot of his stuff we've seen in some form. I did think he put some new spin on some of it. So there was some new material there.
Okay.
The Publish and Profit stuff, that because I was in that master class before and I participated over the last year and that kind of stuff, I didn't see a lot of new stuff. Nikki, did you see a lot of new stuff with that?
No, a few of us were talking about that, and it wasn't compelling enough for us to sign up again. But we still seems like we're going to still have access to the community, and I'm sure that there will be other opportunities to add on down the road, so we can support Mike. But it was pretty much the same package that we already went through.
Do you think that there's that much more he could add to Publish and Profit?
Not yet, but I think it might be in the works. He just purchased it. The deal wasn't even completely done. In fact, TP&I staff is still running the group. But Mike's posting, so it's in transition.
That he couldn't share everything there. So, and maybe what's coming he shares, then we'll, it'll make more sense. So.
Yeah, the only thing on the package would have been maybe bonuses. There was a mastermind and a couple of other things, but it's stuff that we'll probably still have access to.
I would hope
in a few months.
Yeah. And I think the Facebook group, everybody will stay a member of that. I can't imagine him. This is my opinion, so take that for what it's worth. But there's just so much of a community there. I can't imagine him starting that over. So
exactly.
Yeah.
But like Nikki said, I know Laurie's still managing that because she reached out to me about something this week, and I was like, oh. So I know the transition hadn't happened yet.
I asked her about it. She hasn't answered.
Yeah, I wondered that. I didn't know how to ask, so I didn't. Kind of thing. So, but I don't really have anything else to share. So unless somebody has questions, I don't see any in the chat. I'm taking a look at that.
I love these blabs.
I do too. I'm going to start recording. I think I'm going to start recording for my podcast, I do 2 kinds of podcasts. I do a podcast where I answer a question, and then I do a podcast where I interview people. So I'm thinking for the ones that I answer a question, like this one, I'm going to take that first 10 minutes of content, and I'm going to turn that into a podcast. What I learned at Mike Koenigs' event, and that's what I'm going to use it for. And then I've started doing this stuff. I'll probably do another one this weekend. I'm going to do one on GoToWebinar versus Webinar Jam Studio, because that's a question I get all the time. So I'm just going to go through the pros and cons on that. But I like the blab because I can do this. I can record it, and I only use the audio for my podcast, but it'll automatically give me an audio and a video of this, as well as I can upload it to YouTube. And it has embed code too. So there's, the whole idea that Mike talks about, You Everywhere Now, this gives me all of that. So as long as I can remember to turn Skype off so my camera works, then I'm in good shape. So we're going to see. This is what I'm trying now. I like trying new things, and maybe there'll be a new technology next week that we can try out differently. But there is one called Nomad that Pat and I want to try out. So I've got a lot of travel for work, so I'm trying to figure out when I can throw a session up, just to, kind of a play session where we can all get on and just check it out. And it's supposed to broadcast over Facebook. So I don't know if it works or not, but we'll see.
I think for us that have been in it for a while, we all tried Mirrorkeet and Periscope, and then this came out. This because you get the audio, the video, you get instant feedback, you can ask questions, that type of environment. It seems to leapfrogged over all those as far as for us, where we can, do it once and disseminate it many times.
Right. Well, I'd also say.
Well, and you can also use it on your computer, because on Meerkat and Periscope, it's a vertical, narrow shot. And that's just, I can't see that as being
that's
very
exactly what I was going to say.
business.
I can broadcast over my computer. I mean, I love my iPhone and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But to have these conversations, it's nice I call it the Hollywood squares. It's nice to have the Hollywood squares where you can see multiple people. You can carry on a conversation. I've watched some other people do some interviews and stuff, and it just works really well for that. So I like it. We'll see how it goes from here on out, but I've been trying to figure out how I was going to use it. And this morning, when I get all my great ideas when I go out and walk or run. So when I was out on my walk this morning, I thought, well, why don't I just use Blab to record my podcast? It was on my list of things to do this week, is to record a couple of them. And I thought, well, I might as well do it on here. It's going to record as well as Audacity as far as the audio. And then I could turn around and, use it for my podcast. I can edit it, put my bumpers on it, and toss it out for my podcast for next week. So that's what I like.
For you and I, Melody, isn't it amazing? You've been in the industry a long time, like myself, how the democratization of the internet and making things that you could only do with CIO and a whole team.
Oh, yeah.
That type of thing. It's now you and I can do it, blink an eye, no cost or low cost. It's like, I sit here and blow my mind.
Yep.
The first computer I sold was the size of a house and did nothing, and was 1 megabit. Yep. And it was like $800,000. And now what you do with the phone and everything.
Well, and that's the thing, webinars, I get asked this, a lot, like what the difference between webinars and webcast are, and web conferencing and all that. And the truth is there's not much difference anymore. It used to be a technology thing.
Yep.
Webinars, you streamed your computer and you called in on the phone. That's right. What a webinar was, webinar plus seminar. A webcast was different technology that would allow you to actually do some of this video, but you couldn't, that's relatively new, because you couldn't stream video 5 years ago very easily.
Right.
The average person, companies could buy it. And the same, like when I started doing webinars 15 years ago, only companies could do it. You could not do webinars on dial-up.
Oh, no.
Dial-up we had back then. You just couldn't. So, but now, I can stream video on almost every webinar platform out there. And so you can call it a webcast if you want to. It's not a TV show, but it's certainly, it's getting darn near close to it. And frankly, I think some of these Blab sessions are way better than most of the reality shows that are out there. Let's just be honest. We can be the, what is it, the housewives from Blab or something? I don't know. Not a housewife, but we can name ourselves if we want, right? So.
I think we should. I think it's a kicking idea. Well, everything I'm doing now is going to be is a 100% video, and this is one way where I can do a lot of things, get it all done at once, spread it out across different ways, and I'm only going to be doing that type of thing. Everything's got to be visual now.
Well, I have to tell you, I liked your picture with Ric Flair. It brought back memories of my childhood, because I used to watch. I haven't watched pro wrestling in years and years, but when I was a kid, my brother was a wrestler in high school, and so we watched pro wrestling. That's what we watched, and he was on there, and he was like one of my favorites because he was such a character, Yeah. So I was like, oh my God, he's still around, You
cannot believe the amount of feedback or messages off of that. I just thought nobody's going to know it. And everybody goes, oh, I knew this guy. Oh, I knew that guy. And then the one guy I totally forgot about is Captain, whatever the heck his name is, that now runs the cruise ships for the marketing cruise ships that Mike's had. He used to manage those guys.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it was a different, when I watched pro wrestling, it was different than it is now. I think now it was a show back then, but it's a huge show now, you know.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, those characters were something else. You know, when you remember them, somebody from your childhood, that's funny. So
yeah, like all of a sudden it brought up Bobo Brazil and all those guys. I go, this is kind of dating me.
Exactly. Well, guys, I think we've run out of topics. I'm going to call it a night because it's Friday night here, and I am, like I said, you'll probably see me do another blab. I might do it tomorrow. I might do it Sunday. Haven't decided yet. I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to do it on GoToWebinar versus Webinar Jam Studio, and that's my next podcast to record. And I'm going to try it on blab until I don't like blab anymore, until something else comes along that's better. I figure it's a good mechanism to use. So thanks everybody that joined today. Appreciate that.
Thank you. No.
Thanks, Melody. Thanks, Joe.
Bye.
Cheers, guys. Have a great weekend.